We're less than 5 months away from New York's primary elections for the House of Representatives. A number of seats are on the ballot, and one race we have been following closely here is Congressional District 7. It's currently held by Representative Nydia Velázquez, who is retiring this year and will not be running for re-election. We've told you about two of the candidates vying for the seat. That's Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso, as well as State Assembly member Claire Valdez. But today, the race got a little bit more crowded. Queen City Councilwoman Julie Won officially filed paperwork to enter the race and is seeking to represent this congressional district. The district includes all or part of Long Island City, Astoria, Sunnyside, Fort Greene, Greenpoint, and Williamsburg. She joins me now to talk more about the campaign. Welcome back to the program, and I guess congratulations.
Thank you so much, Errol.
What made you decide to run?
For me, it's very deeply personal. I came here when I was 8 years old, not knowing the language, watching my parents navigate the very complicated pathway to citizenship. I remember going through flashcards with my mom as she was getting ready to take the citizenship exam, where she was starting to sweat because she was scared that she would fail. I grew up being a translator for my whole entire family. And right now, within the last 4 years, I've represented the highest amount of migrant shelters in the city of New York, because as an immigrant, I would never turn anyone away. And nationally, we are seeing people get shot in the face for standing up for their neighbors against ICE. I want to abolish ICE and end family separation as a mother and an immigrant, and I want to make sure that we're fighting against Donald Trump.
In this particular district, Nydia Velázquez was the first Puerto Rican woman ever elected to Congress. The shape of the district has changed over the 3 decades that she's represented it. It's often thought as a Latino seat. What do you think about that?
Representation is incredibly important, and I have nothing but respect for Congressman Nydia Velázquez. As I have run in my current district, where people, when I first ran, they said, why don't you move to Chinatown or Flushing? Because you seem like a great candidate, but this is not a majority Asian district. I believe that representation goes beyond just our demographics. And as a majority immigrant district, I would be the only immigrant running for office. And I believe that we have more shared experiences navigating the very complex immigration system that we currently have that needs to be comprehensively reformed. And there are more similarities in our experiences in this country as immigrants than those that divide us racially.
A long time ago, you were an intern for a member of Congress who has now since retired.
Yes.
Tell us about that. What did you take from that experience?
Yeah, when I was a college student, I did an urban abroad in Washington, D.C. through the Maxwell Citizenship Program, and I was an intern for Gary Ackerman as he was on the verge of retirement, and then it became Grace Meng's seat.
Okay, fondly remembered, Gary Ackerman. I hope he's watching tonight. So if you are elected, what committee would you want to serve on and why?
I want to make sure that I'm on the Housing Committee as well as Space, Science, and Technology, because of my tech background for over 10 years, working for the federal government as a contractor, helping them modernize civilian agencies, as well as for housing. Right now, within the last 4 years, I passed the largest housing neighborhood plan, as I was last on with you for 1LIC in New York City history, as well as understanding that we have to fix AMI. You get asked all the time, I get asked all the time about who is it affordable for? And the average median income in which we peg affordability for the city of New York is determined by Congress. And we know as New Yorkers that it is not affordable.
And so to the extent that you'd be coming in, Democrats might be in the majority. I think that's what some are anticipating. But even if they're not, what would that mean for you? I mean, this would be, you'd be part of, a couple of hundred people who are fighting in these days against very long odds.
For our hopes for regaining the majority in the House, that is our first priority. But New York 7 is a guaranteed Democratic seat, so that's great. And what I've shown in the last 4 years is that I understand that we have to build coalitions across the aisle, no matter what. And we have to find common interests and commonalities for the greater good of our country. So as a council member, I had a letter that I sent to Senator Chuck Schumer for internet connectivity. And it was the first one in my tenure that all 51 council members signed on to say we must have connectivity for all to have broadband access. And that's actually why I ran for office, to make sure that my NYCHA neighbors had free internet and cable TV. And we accomplished that within 6 months of being elected through the Big Apple Connect program. And within the last 3 years, we've expanded that program to all publicly owned NYCHAs in the city of New York, so that if you're a NYCHA resident, you have free internet and cable TV. And we have 80% adoption across the city, which is one of the highest adopted public benefit that we know of.
Okay, very interesting. Let's talk politics. How do you get to be known, especially on the Brooklyn part of the district, that you have not represented up until now?
Just like campaigning for anybody, right? You saw with the biggest upset of the mayor of New York City now, from Zohran Mamdani, that you always start your campaign with your base in your district and you expand out. It's through it is through canvassing, door knocking, and making sure that you also have a strong digital presence, and also just retail politicking, and exactly what I'm doing now, earned media, making sure that we're in the news, that we're getting press coverage, and we're connecting with as many people as possible, because at the end of the day, my policy is a lifetime of care, making sure that the moment that you're born until the day that you retire, that our country has your back, which means that at every stage of life, that there's a safety net from the country to make sure that you feel cared for. Because you and I both know that at any point in our lives, we are just one illness away from missing a paycheck and being evicted. We also know that our country treats every single one of us as if we're disposable. If you're unproductive, like you're too young to work, if you're too sick to work, if you're too old to work, then what happens to you? How do you live on a $200 security benefit, Social Security benefit, or on SNAP benefits, which is just not enough, which is what I hear from my neighbors all the time of every age. And that's why if you look at our website, you'll see an expansion of what we want to see, like ending unpaid leave. Right now, the country has unpaid parental leave. Moms and dads should not have to choose between caring for their child that is new and also making a living so that they could feed their child. And we want to make sure that there's universal health care and making sure that we have actually cost-free universal childcare. Because it can't all be cost restrictive, where people are just simply so tired that I hear from women all the time, Julie, I wish I could afford to have one more baby. But it's just not our reality anymore.
Okay, there's going to be a lot to talk about. Let me put in an early request to join us for a candidates debate, if we can get one together between now and June. Thanks so much. Good luck on the campaign trail, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much, Errol.
Okay.